Most of you know who Mark Cuban is. He's an American billionaire entrepreneur, television personality, and media proprietor whose net worth is an estimated $4.8 billion. We're going to find out how he went from millions to billions in this video.
Hey GQ, I'm Mark Cuban, and this is how I made, saved, and spent my first million, and then flipped it into $1 billion. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, just a middle-class kid. My dad did upholstery on cars. My mom did odd jobs. As long as I can remember, I was hustling. I remember going to my dad while he was playing poker with his buddies and saying, "Dad, I need some new sneakers." And he looked at me, looked at my feet, and he goes, "Those tennis shoes you got on, they work. When you have a job, you can buy whatever you want." And one of his buddies that had to be drunk was sitting at the poker table with him, and he goes, "Hey, I got something you can sell. I got all these boxes of garbage bags. Why don't you sell them in the neighborhood, and then you can take the money you make and buy your sneakers."
I like that dad energy there, where he's encouraging his kid to find his own solution. And so much parenting out there is just providing, but I really like the idea of really trying to encourage the kid to figure it out themselves.
He had these boxes that he sold to me for $3. I sold them for $6, but it went like this. "Hi, my name is Mark. Do you use garbage bags? I've got a great deal for you, and every time you need garbage bags, all you ever have to do is call me, and I'll put them in the back of my wagon, and I'll bring them right down to your house."
As someone who often is in sales, it's I mean, you can't beat the cute factor, but I also love the idea that he immediately turned around and had some some intoxicated friend of his dad that was just like, "I've got something that has, basically 100% margins. It's like, here's an opportunity for you to go and like double this money." It's an impressive opportunity.
First business, the world's first, probably only, garbage bag door-to-door subscription company. As I started to get older and got into high school in particular, I realized that high school wasn't my jam, that I wanted to learn as much as I could about business. I started taking classes at night at the University of Pittsburgh when I was 16.
That's something that a lot of people say, "Oh, high school isn't my jam, so I'm just going to drop out and just be a burnout." And this is the twist here. This is something that, if you have someone that maybe they're just, they're processing on a different level, encouraging them to go and pursue classes and pursue the education, but in a way that's targeted. Now that's totally different than someone just checking out.
And then when I was 17, I dropped out of high school altogether and went to Pitt full time. That's where things really started to happen for me. I never ever thought in terms of money, okay, I need to make millions. I always thought in terms of time. Has always been my driving motivation. How can I control my own destiny? How can I control my own time? I started a company called Micro Solutions, and from there we just grew and grew and grew and ended up selling that, and that's how I got my first stacks.
That's the motivator. What's the value of your time? Where are you putting your time? How are you investing it so that it works for you, changes your life day in and day out?
So here's the rundown of when I sold Micro Solutions for $6 million. So $1 million went to employees, $2 million to a partner I brought in, $2 million to me. I live like a student, but the first thing I did was buy a lifetime pass on American Airlines, and I just went all around the world taking friends and partying like a rock star.
I got a feeling Mark Cuban was doing more than just partying like a rock star. I think wheels were already turning about how he was going to take that million and turn it into his next million, 10, so forth.
I was saving it. I could have gone out and bought a bigger house, bought a nicer car. I didn't care. What it bought me was freedom.
Freedom, that's what we're looking for here. I mean, this is something where, he's already talking about living below his means. And it doesn't matter if you're making 10 grand, 100 grand, or $1 million. It's the difference between what you're spending and what you're earning is going to be the X factor for how it's going to change your life.
That I was going to work again. I'd made a ton of money in the stock market. I was worth $20+ million. Life was good. Then one of my buddies from college, Todd Wagner, sat down with me, and this was in 1995. He was like, there's this whole new thing called the internet. There's got to be a way we can use this to listen to Indiana basketball. We set up this website called AudioNet, and the next thing you know, video comes along and we turned it into a company called broadcast.com.
This is a great example of see a need, fill a need. So I talk to so many people out there, they've got their family, they've got their paycheck coming in, they work their day job, and they're just stuck and they're looking for a way out. And the way out for so many of those is to build something. It's just to be an entrepreneur, and it's going to start with the things that you need in your life to make your life better. And so, so that's what I encourage people to do, is to start there and to see a need, fill a need.
So we started what turned out to be the very first streaming company. On July 18th, 1998, we went public, and we're guessing, what's the stock gonna open at? And I was the high, I'm thinking $33. It goes $62.75. All of a sudden, I'm worth $300 million plus. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh fuck, if this stock price triples, I'm a billionaire. Well, we took that company and became the biggest media portal on the internet. And Yahoo came along and made us an offer. And all of a sudden, that stock price tripled, and I was a billionaire.
So that's incredibly exciting. I mean, everyone out there is thinking, well, how am I going to take my idea and turn it into a $1 billion company? But I mean, shoot for that. Make that your goal. I mean, what if you get, 10% of that success? What if you get 1%? You're still a millionaire from this this thing. What if you get, we're talking like a millionaire would be 0.1% success rate of this idea. And so that's attainable for just about anyone. It depends on, one, a good deal of luck. I'm sure that he tried many other things that he's not talking about, and perseverance. And it's gonna take a lot of sweat equity. It's gonna take a lot of luck, and it's gonna take a lot of different attempts. And that Edison principle of building a lot of light bulbs to see which one works.
We sold the company to Yahoo for stock, and I had seen stocks go up, and I had seen stocks go down. And I told Todd, my partner, I told everybody who worked for us, there's a good chance, because this stock market is so highly priced, that the whole thing could crash. Don't be greedy. Todd had the same, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Don't get slaughtered. So I put together what they call a collar. And what that is, I sold some of the upside to that Yahoo stock that they gave me, and I protected myself by buying puts on the downside. 3 months later, the internet stock market cratered. It was called one of the top 10 Wall Street trades of all time.
I mean, legendary for sure. Sound familiar? Those people that were hedging their bets and pulling out of the market a year ago, look at them now. They were able to, sell high and buy low. And I mean, I know that's the aspiration for everyone. I'm not someone who tries to encourage you to time the market, but this is different. This is someone who's hedging and making sure that they're protecting the money that they made. So his goal in that wasn't necessarily to get rich, but he was trying to not lose money. And that's a very key difference there.
And it taught me a hell of a lesson. When you just chase dollars, it never works out well. I was worth $1 billion, and it was the most insane thing that I could ever come to realize. All I had to do was protect it and not get greedy, and I'd be set for the rest of my life. We talked about how I made and saved some money. We don't quite have $1 billion here, but let me tell you how I spent it. I told you I valued time. First thing I bought, Gulfstream G5. Now, I didn't just buy it. I'm a tech guy. I go online and I'm like looking up Gulfstream G5, email the guy, and I'm like, can I do a test flight? First time I'd ever been on a private plane. Oh, sitting there, and I'm thinking, oh shit, this could be my plane. So I stacked up some more, and I sent him an email saying, done. $40 million, I'll buy it. Biggest online purchase in the history of the internet, still to this day, was my buying that Gulfstream G5. Why'd I want a plane? Because the most valuable asset you can never own is your time. And
I know for sure there's been some other high value assets sold online since then, but always keep in mind that this is also a business decision. He's buying time and he's using it for business purposes for sure, and there's some serious tax implications that he's able to write off when he's like, I gotta spend some money. A lot of people, when they gotta spend a lot of money, they start looking for a jet.
the one thing I can do is save time and get to places, and it was amazing. Second purchase, I paid $285 million for the Dallas Mavericks. I went to an opening night of the 99-2000 season. First game of the year, wasn't sold out. Energy wasn't in the building. I'm a season ticket holder, a huge Mavs fan. I look around thinking, I can do a better job than this. Then I realized I can put my money where my mouth is. This was early November. By January 4th, I owned the Dallas Mavericks.
This is the same spirit of an entrepreneur when he very first built his first company. It's see a need, fill a need. When he's something he's passionate about, he knows that he can put in the sweat equity, persevere, and not get tired of it, and he knows he can flip this and turn it into something great.
I took over the Mavs. I didn't get a big office. We had a sales bullpen. We called it the fishbowl because it was in an open office with all these windows. And we had 8, 9, whatever salesperson. I put my desk right in the middle of them. I put a phone book and a computer printout of all of our former customers. And right there next to them, I just started dialing, trying to sell the Mavericks. Ma'am, I know you've been to a Mavericks game before, but you realize now that it's less expensive to come to a Mavericks game than to take your family to McDonald's?
It's just like when he was selling garbage bags as a kid. You could tell the tone in his voice. He switched right back on to those very same basic sales principles that he was going door to door. And I don't think there's any mistake here that some of those skills that he developed early on are showing right back up, and he's putting in the sweat equity. He's going to work. He's not, sitting back on his investment and just hoping things work out. He's going and making it happen.
Tickets started at $8, and McDonald's and a Coke is more than that. Why don't you come and try us out? The first game's free on me. I wanted everybody that worked with me to see that if I asked them to do it, I'll do it. Same thing I did with people in the front office, I did with players on the court. We moved into a new arena, American Airlines Center. I wanted them to, when they go to work, feel good about going to work. We put in PlayStations, we put in TV screens. Now to this day, we upgraded it so that we had aroma, because different aromas impact you more before a game when you're trying to get hyped versus after the game. Light impacts you more. All these things that try to give our players an edge to help us win, but to also help them succeed. If you're running a company, and if you can align your interests with those of the people you work with, things are going to work for you.
That's so true. If your interests can align with those that work for you, then you're going to succeed together. A rising tide raises all boats. These principles, this is true in life in general. The people that you surround yourself. I heard a quote recently that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's been rattling around in my brain, and it's so true that typically in a healthy lifestyle, day to day, the 5 people you spend the most time with, your interests are aligned. And if they're not aligned, if your interests aren't aligned with the 5 people you spend the most time with, then you're going to find some internal dissonance. And that's true. I kind of feeling he spent a lot of time with especially the closest core team when he's building a project or a company or a movement like this.
You know what's really cool about owning a team? It's not so much owning the team. There's little perks. Let's just say that you're down 1. There's 3 seconds to go in the game. Your team takes the shot for the chance to win. The ball's in the air. Everybody is holding their breath. And when that ball goes through the hoop, you see the players go running out and dogpiling on top of each other, screaming and yelling and hugging, and you see this big pile of people. Well, I own the team. I get to run out with them. No one's going to arrest me. It's my team, and that is the most amazing part of owning the team. There's not enough stacks in the universe for what that was worth to me, and that was my second big purchase. Third big purchase, I need to set an example here and take the money down, because there was a lesson in my third big purchase. So one day, one of my partners from Micro Solutions, Martin Woodall, comes up to me and he goes, there's this amazing house that's about to go into foreclosure. The guy who owned it spent 3 years building it. This is their dream house. He and his wife and his whole family spent $25 million building this house.
This is for all you out there that's been waiting and waiting and waiting for the real estate market to crash. I don't think it's going to happen, all right? But what I do think that is, if you're living in a good spot and you can live there for the next 3 to 5 years, then it's a good time to stay. Rates are too high. It's kind of ridiculous. It costs twice as much to buy what you think you want to buy. Now, if you're looking out there at the market and you think, well, where's the opportunity? Where's the edge? It's about to be in foreclosures, because unfortunately, with the way things are with rates and housing and costing and, coming in and out of the pandemic, there's going to be a lot of foreclosures. It's just something that we've delayed, and it's going to happen. So, this is something where he's looking for an opportunity, and he's going to get an edge on that by being able to take advantage of the situation. It's just the way things are. And so, I'm not saying it's necessarily, I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's just a reality, and it's what you should be paying attention to as well.
Only lived there 8 months, and then the stock market crashed, and he had never sold a share of stock. And because of that, he had to get rid of his house. Martin called me and said, you can buy it right now, but you have to let me know today, yes or no, $12.5 million. I'd never seen the house. I saw some pictures, had never been there. I was like, and it was an amazing house. I've raised my 3 kids there, still live there, but the lesson is large. You can't ever take wealth for granted. You can't ever think it's always going to be there. If it's not, you're going to get busted.
That's what we talk about when we talk about legacy. It's not just about building up wealth. It's not just about making money. It's not just about growing money. It's about protecting your future. And sometimes when you have money and when you have wealth and you have assets, it's about not losing money. That's the real key when it comes to the long-term gains.
If you want to be a millionaire, you can do it. But there's a couple things you have to be able to accomplish. Rule number 1, find something you can be good at and then be great at it. Second, you have to know how to sell. Whatever it is you're good at, somebody's going to need that service, someone's going to need that, whatever it is that you're creating, but you have to be able to sell because you don't want to be in a position where you're dependent on other people. Number 3, be curious and always be learning. Because the one thing that's certain about business is that it changes every single day. And then the 4th thing, when you have that knowledge, when you have that ability to sell, when you know that when you walk into a room, you know your shit better than anybody else in the room, that's when it's time to start a company. Then you can start to control your own destiny.
I love that part of the end there because so many of us and so many of my coaching clients, they feel stuck. They come to me and they say, this probably isn't going to be worth it, but I'm going to try my best to find a way out of this cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. And they're in a job. It's not bad, but it's not great. They're not in love with what they do. And it's not about necessarily finding something that is going to constantly bring you joy, because your happiness and well-being, it can't be tied to your work. It can't be tied to your spouse. It can't be tied to your kids and laying that all on top of them. It's got to be something that comes from within you and is able to resonate, whether you're at work or at home or on a date with your spouse. And everyone is going to benefit from you. Your coworker is going to benefit. You're going to benefit. Your spouse is going to benefit. And this is something that I feel like Mark Cuban exudes because he seeks out the things that he knows he's passionate about. He looks for the things that he's good at, and then he maximizes on those by being able to really draw out the best qualities that he has to bring to the table. And that's what I encourage anyone that I have a coaching session with to do, is to look at their strengths and to try to form a life that encourages the development of those and lifts up the good qualities. And how it turns into really, and how it translates into a practical day-to-day thing, is that often the times they're looking for an extra way to make an extra $1,000 or $10,000, a month or a year, and it really just boils down to what they're already interested in, what they're already investing their time into, and what they know that they could continue to do day after day, week after week, month after month. For me, it's finance. I enjoy it, and that's why I'm here. And for some of you, it may be something that is more physical or tactile or intellectual or spiritual. And so finding that thing that you can invest your energy and your time. You have the time. I promise you, the vast majority of us are scrolling on our phone 4 to 6 hours. So if you even just take half that amount of time and devote to something like this, you'll change your life in a year. And that's something that is, with perseverance and sweat equity, like every example that Mark Cuban gave in his life, this is something that could be real for you. And so I encourage you to get with a coach and find a path that's going to grow your future, that's going to elevate your goals, that's going to accelerate your momentum towards life-changing financial success.